afternoon in Japan time. This is Kosuke Kawai, working for the National Institute for Environmental Studies located in Tsukuba City, about 60 kilometers far from Tokyo. As Professor FURUMAI mentioned that you had the lecture from another staff or researcher of our institute yesterday. And today I would like to give you a presentation on the municipal solid waste management in Japan and the developing countries. In Vietnam, in 2005, as a visiting researcher of the Vietnamese Academy of Science and Technology, located in Hanoi. After that, I engaged in various research projects to propose the improvement of municipal solid waste management systems in developing countries as well as in Japan. Currently, I lead the project on a sustainable system of municipal solid waste management in depopulated and aging areas of Japan, funded by the Ministry of the Environment of Japan. Here is the brief history of our institute. I was wondering whether Ms. Yoshikawa already explained about it, but let me repeat again. In 1971, Environmental Agency of Japan was established. After that, our institute was established in 1974. Because of the reformulation of the ministries in 2001, we newly established the Ministry of the Environment of Japan at that time. And simultaneously, we established the Waste Management Division in our institute. From now on, I would like to talk about some information on the municipal solid waste or municipal solid waste management in Japan. This figure shows the categories of the waste in Japan according to the waste management and cleansing law. We have, roughly speaking, two categories of the waste, that is municipal solid waste and industrial waste. It's it may be strange for you, but in Japan, municipal solid waste is defined as the waste that is not categorized as industrial waste. I think it must be very interesting for you. And under the, well, not under, but municipal solid waste is composed of solid waste and human waste. Human waste refers to urine or feces. And solid waste can be divided into two types. One is household waste and the other is business waste. That was the definition of municipal solid waste in Japan. And here I would like to explain about worldwide municipal solid waste definition. According to my article published in 2006, we can divide the waste into four types. The first waste type is municipal solid waste. Waste that should be managed by or for municipalities. That is the municipal solid waste. And we have other 3 waste floors from the sources. For example, the waste managed by other actors, such as industries. That is, we call industrial waste. And for example, recyclables managed by other actors, such as informal sector. I think most of you, or almost all of you, came from Asian countries, or let's say developing countries. And I think you have the informal sector to collect and recycle the waste. And you have such kind of waste floors. And I suppose almost no local governments identify the exact amount of recyclables that is managed by informal sector. The last waste floor is the waste disposed by themselves or by waste generators. For example, the household composting, or just throwing the waste into the river. Those are the self-disposal. I think those who live in Japan already understand the categories of the source separation of household waste in Japan. This picture shows the typical categories of the source separation of household waste. For example, the plastic waste. And apart from plastic waste, we have another category to separate, that is a plastic bottle, we call PET bottle. And also we have the category of glass bottles or cans, aluminum cans, steel cans. And also it's very, very popular in Japan that we have a category of the source separation of paper waste, newspaper, cardboard, and so on. Those are the typical categories of the source separation of household waste in Japan. And also this, let's say this is a very advanced source separation in Japan. On the left, you can see the picture of different color of glasses. I took this picture in Kamikaze town in Tokushima prefecture. Kamikaze town has largest number of source separation of the household waste. They have more than 30 categories of the source separation, and this picture shows one of the types of the source separation in Kamikaze town. They separate, for example, a clear glass bottle, brown color glass bottle, and other color glass bottle. And also on the right, you can see the box to collect a diaper in Miyama City in Fukuoka prefecture. As you may know that we are in the aging era in Japan. That is to say, we have a lot of elderly persons in Japan, and unfortunately, when we get older, we need some of us need a diaper, and also of course the babies have a diaper as well. But the diaper for elderly person is more serious or getting serious in Japan. And I know that some of the local governments in Japan already started to collect diaper to recycle it to the RDF or recycled pulp. Recently, I have many complaints from citizens in Japan about the low rate of recycling compared to other OECD countries. As I mentioned that citizens in Japan are involved in source separation, and most of the citizens are very willing to separate the household waste and to contribute to recycling. However, when we talk about the recycling rate, or when we compare the recycling rate between Japan and other OECD countries, unfortunately, the recycling rate in Japan is quite relatively or quite low compared to other countries. And we are wondering why the recycling rate of Japan is so low. This is the trend of the proportion of municipal solid waste treatment in Japan from 1990 to 2006 or 7. As you can see that large proportion of the municipal solid waste treatment has been incineration in Japan. And nowadays we have very limited proportion of landfill compared to the proportion of incineration. The proportion of material recovery, that is recycling, is quite small. So this is the trend of the proportion of other countries, and just a moment. Okay, this is United Kingdom. Because of before 1990s, most of EU countries depended on landfilling. That EU established the landfill directive in the late 1990s. After that, many of the EU countries have changed their treatment systems of municipal solid waste from landfill to other treatment, of course, including incineration and other material recovery. And this is the trend of municipal solid waste treatment in United Kingdom. And you can see that the proportion of landfilling gets smaller and smaller. And this is because of the landfill tax in United Kingdom. They gradually increase the landfill tax year by year, and they set the economic incentive to avoid landfilling. This is the Italy. You can see they gradually reduced the proportion of landfilling year by year. and in line with the decrease in landfill proportion, they increased the proportion of material recovery. This is the historical trend in Sweden. They already started to reduce the proportion of landfilling in the early years. And also they have a larger proportion of incineration than other countries such as Italy or United Kingdom. They have almost major two treatment technology in Sweden, incineration or material recovery, almost no landfill. So this is the Slovenia. Let me get back to the recycling rate in OECD countries. And as you can see that the top recycling rate was Slovenia, 72.8%. And this is, let's discuss why. Well, just, as you can see that recently they dramatically reduced the proportion of landfilling, but at the same time they increased the proportion of material recovery. Do not rely municipal solid waste management on incineration. At the latest information, they have 14% as the proportion of incineration. So this is a data background why Slovenia has the top rank of the recycling rate. This is just for your information. In the United States, they have still large proportion of landfilling, and this is because they have, of course, they are not. The United States is not EU country, and also they have enough land areas to secure the landfill site. They have no incentive to reduce the municipal solid waste, but they just throw away or generate the municipal solid waste as much as they can, and they have no problem to secure the new landfill site. So I briefly reviewed the trend of municipal solid waste management in Japan as well as in EU countries and United States. And hereafter, I would like to talk more about incineration in Japan. As you can see, we have a lot of incineration plants in Japan. As of now, we have more than 1,000 incineration plants in Japan. And about 35% of the incineration plants have power generation. Here you can see the picture of the center of Tokyo Metropolitan Administration on the left. And this is the map of Tokyo 23 wards. They have about 10 million population. And in Tokyo 23 wards, they have about 20 incineration plants. And you can see one of the incineration plants in Chuo ward. on the right, we had a serious program on the waste management or municipal solid waste landfilling in Tokyo in well, from 1950 to 1970s. We call Tokyo Waste War. We had the landfill site in the coastal area in Tokyo, and most of all the other wards in Tokyo 20 wards relied fully on the landfill site located in the coastal area of Tokyo. But the local residents complained about the serious environmental problems such as odors, vermin, flies, and so on. And they had serious complaints about the transportation of municipal solid waste from other areas. And the mayor of the Tokyo Metropolitan Administration declared this situation as Tokyo Waste War. From at that time, we had the policy to establish the incineration plants in each local government. And we started to increase the number of the incineration plants. This figure shows the municipal solid waste amount treated in Japan from after World War II. As you can see that after the World War II, we had the economic development in the 1960s and 1970s. And we had, of course, we had dramatical increase in the population after World War II. And every local government increased the population of the local areas. And here you can see the picture of the municipal solid waste amount in the major cities in Japan, including Tokyo, Yokohama, Osaka, and Kyoto. And we had the trend of the increase in the amount until 1990s. But after that, we had the new era that the waste started to decrease. This is the picture, sorry, this is the figure showing the municipal solid waste per capita in Japan. Not only in Japan, but also in other countries, or including your countries, Philippines, India, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Indonesia, and Pakistan, Laos, and so on. You have, roughly speaking, the municipal solid waste generation per capita in your country may be around 1 kilogram per person per day. This is universal. And in Japan, after World War II, we have per capita of the municipal solid waste generation has increased until year 2000. And some of some of the cities has more than 1.5 or 1.2 kilogram per person per day of the municipal solid waste generation. But after that, we had the different trend of the reduction of per capita of municipal solid waste after year 2000. This is because of the economic depression of Japan, and in line with the decrease in the per capita generation, we have the decrease in the total amount of municipal solid waste generation in Japan. This is the lower heating value of municipal solid waste combusted in Japan gradually increased. And this is the moisture content of municipal solid waste combusted in Japan. In line with the increase in the lower heating value, the moisture content of the municipal solid waste has been decreased. I just showed some statistical data or historical statistical data in Japan in terms of municipal solid waste management. And here you can see the national statistical data on municipal solid waste in Japan. This is the web page of national statistics of municipal solid waste management in Japan, published by the Ministry of the Environment of Japan. The Ministry of the Environment of Japan publishes such kind of statistical data every year, and the statistics is compiled from all local governments in Japan. We have about 1,700 local governments in Japan, and each local government has to report the situation of municipal solid waste management to the Ministry of the Environment of Japan. And this is one of the data just copied from the Excel file of the statistics. And you can see, for example, municipal solid waste generation per capita from household or from business activities, or recycling rate of each local government, or the amount of landfill, of course, the amount of incineration, the amount of recycling, and so on. And also, in addition to the landfilling or incineration, we have the data on the amount of the composting, anaerobic digestion, RDA production, and so on. And here I would like to say that data are very important to review the municipal solid waste management, as well as to forecast the future situation. Local governments usually use such kind of data to make the master plan for about 5 or 10 years. And of course, they design the construction plan of the, for example, recycling facilities or incineration plants based on such kind of statistics. So let me change the topic of today's lecture. As I mentioned that I started my field studies from Vietnam in 2005 when I was a PhD student of Kyoto University. And from the time, I focused on the researches or studies in Southeast Asian countries. All the pictures were taken by me in this slide. For example, Phnom Penh, Bandung, Indonesia, Bekasi, Indonesia, Dalat, Vietnam. And for example, you can see on the in the picture taken in Bandung that it seems very hard to load the municipal solid waste on the truck, and it doesn't seem very hygiene. And also you can see the picture in the Bekasi that there are a lot of waste pickers in the landfill site. These are the pictures related to the some recycling, or let's say composting. Surabaya has a very active community-based composting. Of course, household composting. And Hanoi, they had the composting site. And recently, Bangkok started their operation of incineration plants, and Can Tho City in Vietnam also started their incineration plants, or let's say waste to energy incineration. However, we can identify that you have a lot of problems related to the waste management, municipal solid waste management. For example, labor incentive, inefficient and unsanitary collection, dumping without any treatment. As a result, at the landfill site, you have various types of environmental problems, such as wastewater, odors, vermin, fire, smoke, greenhouse gases, and so on. And I think most of you already understand that most of the municipal solid waste are organic waste or food waste. More than 50% perishable, high moisture content. I have been involved in the expert group meeting to establish the SDG indicator 11.6.1 as the representative of Japan. We have the SDG indicator 11.6.1, proportion of municipal solid waste regularly collected and managed in controlled facilities out of total waste generated by cities. The expert group meeting established the methodology to monitor SDG indicator 11.6.1. And we have published the waste-wise cities tool. And you can download this document from the website of the UN Habitat. And this slide shows the recent publication of our website. I compiled some information on the municipal solid waste management related to SDG indicator 11.6.1 in Asia Pacific region. We publish the database of the Excel file in our institute, and you can access the website of our institute and download for free. Moving back to the waste management in developing countries, how we should manage municipal solid waste in developing countries. We have, roughly speaking, we have 3 types of solution. The first solution A, is that we treat the municipal solid waste at the incineration plant or waste to energy incineration plant. This is a very typical waste management methodology in Japan. But we have another type of solution B. We operate the mechanical biological treatment instead of incineration. If we use the mechanical biological treatment, we of course produce the combustible waste or in non-combustible waste as well as recyclable waste. And the combustible waste can be used at, for example, cement industry or paper industry as the alternative fuel. The last solution is to install the source separation of the organic waste. And organic waste is transported to the composting site. Other waste is going to mechanical treatment facility or thermal treatment facility. Hereafter, I would like to talk about the composting. It's very challenging for all the cities in developing countries as well as in Japan to install the composting, but I'd like to introduce some solutions or some methodologies to install the composting. Recently, I was the leading author to publish the guideline on composting, published from United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, last year. And of course, you can download this composting guideline from the website. Composting has 2 functions. The first function is to treat organic waste biologically. The other function is to produce organic fertilizer. And if we treat organic waste biologically, we can solve the problem on the waste management. Or in other words, we can solve the problem on landfill. If we produce organic fertilizers, we can solve the problem on industrial agriculture. Many of farmers depend on chemical fertilizers recently. But if they change their mind to use the fertilizers from chemical to organic, then they may solve some problems. For example, soil degradation, water contamination, root diseases, and so on. When you start composting, you need to take into account the demand for compost. you need adequate demand to use the compost. For example, you need to secure the enough farmlands nearby. In addition to the meet demand for compost, you need to take into account the source separation of organic waste. Of course, residents are the key players to separate the organic waste. And for successful source separation, you have to take into account 3 key parameters. The first one is participation rate. That is the population rate to participate in the source separation. The second one is a proper separation rate by separators. That is, separators are properly collaborate or properly discharge the waste, the organic waste separately. The last one is proper discharge rate by non-separators. We need to motivate non-separators not to disturb the source separation. And also we need to keep motivation of the separators. And also it's very efficient for establish the sustainable composting system to secure the test farmland to show the effectiveness and safety of the compost. And we recommend that the operator of the composting facility have the test farmlands. But we have to care about the size of the proportion of the local governments or local areas if you want to start the composting. Based on the information of the composting project in Japan, we found that the population with the composting is relatively small, or in other words, about 80% of the local governments where they operate the composting facility have less than 30,000 population. But this is because it's quite difficult for major cities to disseminate the source separation to every citizens, or it's impossible for large cities to check the quality of source separation of each resident. This slide shows some challenges of municipal solid waste management in developing countries. You have serious problems of the landfill site. In other words, you have very limited areas of the landfill site, and it's quite difficult for you to start or secure the new landfill site. And you already have the greenhouse gas emissions from a landfill site without any collection. And also you have local environmental problems, including odors, fire, and so on, as well as traffic jams. or river pollution. And many of the residents complain about such serious problems related to the landfilling. And some of local governments are very serious to change their municipal solid waste management from landfill to other treatment systems, for example, composting or incineration. But talking about composting, most of the local governments just collect the mixed waste, and it's quite difficult or almost impossible to remove contaminations from the compost. Here, the contamination refers to small pieces of glass or plastics. If the small pieces of glasses or pieces are included in compost, farmers hesitate to use compost. Then demand decreased and the composting project failed. After failing the composting, the local government started to discuss to install the incineration, but because of improper treatment or incineration, they may have the air pollution, or they may have the problem of the disposal of bottom ash as well as fly ash. And the residents may complain about especially air pollution, including dioxins. And local governments are struggling of managing the municipal solid waste. So this is the last slide for your lecture, that we have so many constraints of the related municipal solid waste management. For example, increase in the waste generation, especially in developing countries, in line with the population increase, and also lack of landfill sites. As the global issue, you have greenhouse emission. And as you see that we have worldwide hot issue that you have plastic waste and marine litter problems. And also, this is a very typical problem in Japan, that we already in the aging era, and soon in 20 or 30 years, your country also have the similar problem on aging and depopulation. To solve these problems or to improve your municipal solid waste management, we need to use several resources: financial resources, human resources, social resources, natural resources, and artificial resources. All these resources should be input to the municipal solid waste management. But at the same time, you need to maintain these resources and improve. These are key actions for sustainable municipal solid waste management in your country. So that's all for my lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for informative lectures. So I want to ask the students to raise the questions. Up to now, I cannot find any questions in the chat. So anyone can start. Just raise a hand or yeah, Tandy.
First of all, thank you,
Can you
Sensei.
speak a little bit louder?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Sensei, for a very good presentation. I was just wondering that I have seen in Japan that we do have in Japan at least there is a good source separation, but still the recovery ratio is quite low.
Mm.
So, what could be the main reason for low recovery ratio even though there is a good source separation?
Thank you very much for your very important suggestion and question. As I think I missed a very detailed explanation to answer your question in my lecture, but let me make clear the reasons why the recycling rate in Japan is quite low compared to other countries, especially EU countries. Uh, Even though we in Japan have a very, very active source separation. That's because of the very, very high proportion of incineration in Japan. About 80% of municipal solid waste is directly going to the incineration plant. It means we have only 20% for recycling. And for 20%, local people in Japan are very, very active to separate the recyclable waste and, well, transport these separated waste to the recycling facilities. But unfortunately, for example, food waste or organic waste is categorized as combustible waste going to the incineration plants in Japan. And organic waste or food waste is the largest proportion of municipal solid waste, not only in Japan, but also in other Euro countries. And also organic waste can be the major proportion to be recycled. But unfortunately, in Japan, most of the local governments, I have to say that more than 90% of local governments don't separate the organic waste, but just mix the organic waste and collect such mixed waste and to transport to the incineration plant. So that's the main reason why our recycling rate in Japan is quite low.
Thank you, Sensei. Thank you for the answer.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. Any other questions? So just I want to confirm, so 20% or 21% recycle ratio is based on the weight, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's another very important aspect to evaluate the recycling activity. Unfortunately, we have no choice but to consider the weight of the waste to identify the recycling rate. But if we focus only on the weight, we cannot evaluate the activities of citizens. I think most of you lived in Japan, and you already identified that many of the local people are very willing to separate the municipal solid waste or household waste, and they separately discharge the recyclable waste. But according to the current recycling rate, we have no indicator to evaluate such kind of activity. So that's our that's the next our tasks or the tasks of our the researchers. Yeah.
Okay, so I have the questions from Dan. So the question is, could you provide insights on the measures or innovations made by the government to convince households on waste segregation? Any good idea to promote
Yes.
the source separation?
Yes. Yeah, that's good question. In Japan, the staffs of local governments frequently come to the community to explain about the how to separate the waste or how to separate the recyclables. And they explain to the local people. And I think it's quite tough job for local governments to explain to each community. And many of the local governments counted the frequency of their explanation to the local communities, and thousands times they reported. But moreover, it's quite important what information we should provide to the communities or citizens. For example, the effectiveness of the source separation or the risks of the risks that if you do not separate the waste, or the information of the some other evaluation to motivate the citizens to the source separation. We have this is a psychological behavior, but it's, yeah, we have many experiences to convince such kind of information to the local governments, and I'm sure that the local governments in Japan have the knowledge to train other cities in other countries, including developing countries, to promote this source separation by citizens.
Okay. Dan, is it okay? Okay. So any other questions? So recently we can introduce Dr. Kawai did not talk about it. So once you go to the convenience store, so once you want to buy something, and if you do not have the plastic bag, you pay for to get the plastic bag. So it is one of the idea to reduce or not refuse taking some bag or paper something. It is also a good idea to reduce the production and the municipal solid waste. So might be the reduce and reuse and the recycle, but we have to also promote to the refuse actions or as well. So this is a little bit new in Japan, but the many people recognize it is really important. Might be it is a connection to the microplastic issues or marine plastic problem, but still we have to change something to introduce a new system or charge or some other. Any other questions? No? Almost time is the 3 o'clock. So if you have any questions, you can send to me or some Furushio-san. I transfer to Dr. Kawai. So is it okay? So as usual, we want to take a screenshot for the memory of this lecture. So just a moment, I prepare for that. First, okay. Then how can I do it? This chat. Okay. So I full screen, and please, if you can on the camera, you can show your face, and I select to the screenshot. Okay. Okay. So is it okay? Okay. So 1, 2, 3, I say. So 1, 2, 3. Just a moment. I wrong. Screenshot. Screenshot. Okay. One more. 1, 2, 3. Then I want to confirm. Okay. I can take. So please explain our thanks to Dr. Kawai for informative lecture. Thank you very much for your lecture. 河合先生、どう
Thank you
も
very much.
ありがとうございました。
あ、こちらこそありがとうございまし
もし
た。
追加の質問があったらお送りしますので、対応していただければと思います。
はい、かしこ
本
まりまし
日はどうもあり
た。
がとうございました。
はい、ありがとうございまし
はい、そ
た。
れでは、I'm start to close the session. Thank you very much for participation. それじゃあ、